Welcome to the Functional Aesthetician, a podcast where skin health meets whole body wellness. I'm Samantha Dench, a licensed esthetician of 22 years, owner of Skin Deep Aesthetics, author, and a student of functional medicine. My mission is to help you see the bigger picture because healthy skin starts from within. In each episode, we'll explore the gut-skin axis, hormones, nutrition, skincare, and wellness tools you can use to transform your skin. Welcome to the Functional Aesthetician podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Dench. Today, we are kicking off episode number 1. I'm going to share with you my story and my mission behind why I'm creating this podcast. This will take you on both my health journey and my journey as an esthetician and why I'm here today. Please enjoy. For those of you who know me, you know I'm an overachiever. So this part, you might find a little bit surprising. It took me until I was 24 before I finally figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. Now, at that time, most of my friends had already graduated college and were on to their careers. Some had even moved away. So you can imagine I felt really far behind at that point in my life. My mom had suggested that I go back to school to study aesthetics, because I always loved matching my makeup to my clothes when I went out. And I thought, what do I have to lose? So I gave it a shot. In high school, I was the kid who did well, but I was also the kid that studied just enough to get by and pull off good grades. So my first day of esthetician school, I was super excited. I ripped open my textbook because I couldn't wait to see what we were going to learn. My heart dropped when I opened that book, and the first 2 subjects I saw were biology and chemistry. Now, let me go back to high school. Those were my worst 2 subjects. In fact, I hated biology and chemistry in school. I quickly learned how much I hate putting makeup on people, but I ended up falling in love with the science of the skin. And to this day, I am a proclaimed skin nerd and will gladly geek out over any skin publication I can get my hands on. I am the kind of person, I go all in. And when I was in school, I learned everything I possibly could about the skin. Now, when I graduated from school, med spas were just becoming a new thing. Hello, that's exactly where I'm going to go. I'm 24 years old at this time. I'm young, I'm fearless. I just graduated schools, and the city of Chicago had all these med spas popping up. So that's exactly where I went. I learned a lot at that med spa in both the aesthetics and the medical field. And it was so much fun working there. However, I only lasted 2 years. And as much as I loved getting dressed up and working on high-end people and seeing celebrities, it was a great experience. That's not me. That's just not who I am. I'm a more down-to-earth, simple person, and that kind of environment, it just didn't resonate with who I am. So I switched gears, and I went into a day spa, and I got a job at Deborah Davis Day Spa, and that's where my true passion for skin began. Deborah, the owner, trained me. She took me under her wing, and she taught me everything she knew about aesthetics and skin. I am forever grateful to her because she was so passionate and knew so much information and was so knowledgeable when it came to the skin that I was like a sponge. I soaked up everything she taught me. And not only did I learn from Deborah, but her colleagues and her friends were also very knowledgeable and incredible estheticians. And I had such a wonderful time learning from everybody and even the classes we got to take. Being a new esthetician, it was a great opportunity to be able to work one-on-one with an owner of a spa who knew so much about the skin. And one day during training, we were working on an acne client. And I remember afterwards, Deborah pulled me aside and she said to me that we're not going to be able to clear up this kid's skin. And it was a teenager. And at the time, I didn't really understand what she was talking about because I thought to myself, well, we're doing acne treatments and we sent him home with skincare products for acne. Like, why aren't we going to clear up his skin? And she looked at me and she said, well, he has too much yeast in his body, so nothing we do is going to help him. Yeast? What does yeast have to do with the skin? And at the time, I was so new in the field that I had no idea what that even meant. Fast forward about a year after working for Deborah, and I went off birth control because I wanted to get pregnant and give my body some time to regulate before I started my family. So you can imagine my shock 6 months after going off birth control when all of a sudden I was dealing with adult acne for the first time in my life. Because I was working for a day spa, Deborah was doing facials and acne treatments on me, and I was doing all the right acne skincare products, but nothing was clearing up my skin. And it was very frustrating because I couldn't understand why everything we did wasn't clearing up my skin. I'm the oldest of 3, and so I am a rule follower. So if you give me something to do, I'm going to do it to the T. I'm not going to skip. I'm not going to cheat my way through it. I am going to go all in, and I'm going to do it 100% the way you tell me to do it. So it was quite frustrating when I was dealing with acne and nothing was clearing up my skin. Now, in 2007, I ended up getting pregnant, and my skin cleared up. Like most women would just assume, oh, it's my hormones. Got it. As soon as I have the baby, my hormones have to regulate, and then my skin's going to clear up, and I'm going to go back to normal. Great. Actually, I have 3 children, and with each of my pregnancies, I was very fortunate to have clear skin with all of them. And we will talk about what happened after baby number 3 in just a minute. I want to kind of circle back to my aesthetics career. When Zachary, my oldest, was born, I made the choice to give up my career to stay home and raise him because I had always dreamed of being a stay-at-home mom. And I loved being a mom, and I loved being home with him. Zachary was a great baby. He just wasn't a great sleeper. And he was about 4 months old at the time. And I was sitting on the couch with him. He had just fallen asleep in my arms. I was so exhausted in that moment. I would sit there and stare at him when he slept. That was one of my favorite things to do when he was a baby. And I remember this particular day, and I was thinking to myself, I need to give this little baby more. Like, I am not serving him by just sitting here with him every single day. I could be doing such a better job as a mom if I'm out there helping people and making a difference and giving him a better life. And I knew deep down inside I needed to go back to work. But I wasn't ready to go back to work yet. I wanted to be home with him and raise him because family has always been super important to me. So I knew that whatever I did, I needed to be around my kids. So I stayed home and I enjoyed those precious moments with him. When my ex-husband and I bought our first house together, this house happened to have a separate basement entrance. And so I immediately thought, oh, I can build a spa here. And so I had him build me a room in the basement. In April 2010, Skin Deep Aesthetics was born. And the best part about working from my house is that I would put Zachary down for a nap and take a client. And then I'd put him to bed at night and take maybe 1 or 2 clients. So I worked around his schedule so I could still be home with him and still be able to help people. Now let's get back to my acne story. My 2 younger children, Jonah and Zoe, they're 14 months apart, so I had ended up with back-to-back pregnancies. And after Zoe was born, my skin was really bad. Plus, I had a lot of baby weight to lose. Now, at the time, I had a friend who was a dietitian, and she suggested to lose the baby weight to try this 14-day gut cleanse. And I thought, 2 weeks is nothing. I could totally do this. And so I did. And yes, I did drop the baby weight. But after about a week of doing this cleanse, the most interesting thing happened. My skin cleared up. And just like everybody who does a cleanse, you eat really well afterwards and you try to maintain, and then all of a sudden somehow these bad foods come sneaking back into your diet. Sound familiar, right? And with that came my acne again. But this is when I actually started to pay attention and thought to myself, when I was doing this gut cleanse, my skin was clear. And now that I'm eating these foods, my skin's breaking out again. And so I tested it out. There was like a little bit of time I would eliminate a couple foods. And I'm like, my skin's clear. And then I'd eat them again and my acne would come back. Now I was going to test this out on clients. I'm like, I'm going to try this out on them. And so some of my acne clients, I had told them what I was doing and what I was trying. And I'm like, why don't you give it a shot? And most of them, their skin cleared up too. So I was like, I'm onto something. From that moment on, I started researching because I wanted to learn more about this because this was something totally new to me. All I knew before was that acne was bacteria on the skin and that you had to clear out the pores, calm the acne, put them on acne products, and their skin would eventually clear up. But now I'm like, acne and gut are connected. After doing some research and learning about this and realizing this is a thing, I ended up writing my first book, which I published in 2017. And that also sparked my passion for writing because not only did I write a book and publish a book, I started a weekly blog and it led me to start writing for Dermascope magazine, which is one of our industry magazine publications that I write for. And I wish I could tell you that because of this whole learning curve about putting good foods in your body and eating well, that was the end of my journey, right? But if I told you that, that would be a big fat lie. In 2016, my ex-husband and I separated. I thought it was a great idea to pack up the kids and move to Austin, Texas. And to make it even more interesting, I was going to go down there and start my own business. Now, we loved it. And to this day, my kids still talk about our time in Austin. And I actually was able to start a business there. I was working in a hair salon and I built my business up pretty quick, which is surprising because I knew nobody down there. And in that year, I would fly back to Chicago every 4 to 6 weeks and I'd take my clients. I had a friend who was a chiropractor and she had a massage room in her chiropractic office. And when I would fly home, I would rent out her room and pop up, and it was great. I got to come home. I got to see my family. I got to see all my clients, and it was great to be back. And it's funny how life will redirect you and open and close doors. After about 9 months in Texas, all of a sudden, my business, it started turning for the worst. All of a sudden, I had cancellations, and clients weren't showing up. It was like a weird energy shift. I can't explain it. But all of a sudden, I was like, what am I going to do? Eventually, my parents had to fly down there, pack us up, and move us back home. And we ended up living with my parents for a couple years while I was finishing up and finalizing my divorce. The best part about coming home was that I kept my business open while I was down in Texas. So when I moved back, I had a business to come back to. And right around the time I moved back, a friend of mine who worked in this beautiful salon suite had called me up and said, hey, one of the salon suites just came open. If you're interested or if you're still looking for a space, I could call the owner and put in a good word for you. And I thought, oh my gosh, her space is so beautiful. Yes, it worked out and I've been there ever since. And I relaunched my business in 2017. Now, this was a huge transition time for me, not only because of the divorce and the fact that my kids and I were living with my parents, but I was rebuilding my business. And for the first time in my life, I actually had to take this business and use this as an ability to provide for my family. This was how I was going to get out of my parents' house, move the kids into a neighborhood, and plant them in a house where they need to grow up in. In order to build my business, though, I had to work really hard, and I had to work a lot of hours. And that meant putting the kids in summer camp and after school care, which was really, really hard on them, and it was hard on me too. Now, a few months after moving back, there was an incident with Zachary at the summer camp. It made me stop everything and focus on my kids. And at the time, I was so upset because I thought to myself, I have to build this business. I have to go all in this. And that moment made me pause and go, no, your children need you more than your business. And the business will always be there. My family was number one. No amount of work could ever replace being home with them. And those are one of those moments where I realized when I started this company, It was around my kids. And this was life saying, no, you need to continue to build your business around your kids. I paused everything and started focusing on the kids. And to this day, I still work around their schedule. No amount of work is more important than my children. I pride myself because I am a single mom. I am a sole income family, and I am able to provide for my children. I have my own house. And I'm still able to be home almost every day when they get home from school. I get to take them to their activities, and I get to help out in the school when I can. So now let's circle back to my acne story. During that time, that transition time, you can imagine that I wasn't really taking care of myself. I wasn't eating well. I was drinking wine almost every night. And you can imagine how great my skin looked. And I also had a few extra pounds hanging around my stomach. So all of that was about to change. Into my treatment room walked Clint. He came to me because he needed help with his skin. And I have to share this funny story. At his second facial appointment, he came in and brought me avocados. He had just started on his own health journey and started losing weight and getting healthy and serious about his health. And somehow he ended up with a whole case of avocados. So he brought me a couple just to get them off his counter. A few days later, I texted him a picture saying, "Hey, thanks for the guacamole. It was delicious." We started texting back and forth. We realized how much we have in common, and the rest is history. Now, the reason I'm bringing Clint into this story is because you're going to get to meet him in a couple weeks. His story is significant. Everybody needs to hear his journey because there are things about his health journey that you wouldn't even think about. Clint found great success by starting with the keto diet. I had never heard of it at the time. I knew that I could do better for my health. I'm a single mom. I need to be healthy for my children. I need to be around for them. And I need to be able to have enough energy to keep up with them, especially now that they're teenagers. And one of the best pieces of advice I've always gotten over the years is that you need to put your oxygen mask on first. And the reason they tell you to do that is because you're of no service to anybody if you're not putting your own oxygen mask on first and taking care of yourself, because you cannot take care of others if you cannot take care of yourself. To this day, I still need to learn to do better with that. Starting the keto diet was me taking a step in the right direction as far as taking control of my health. And that's about the end of my acne journey, because once I met Clint and started eating keto, I had a reason to keep going. That's something I also want to talk about is with couples. One spouse tends to be healthier than the other. Not all the time, and I was guilty of this too. When I was married, I was super health conscious. I was always trying to be conscious of what I ate. I was always conscious of exercising and fitness. It was a huge part of who I am. And my ex-husband wasn't too concerned. And so there was a lot of times where I had to make multiple meals. And I feel like couples struggle with this because there tends to be one who is healthy and one who's not. And the one that's healthy is great for a while, and I feel like you yo-yo because you don't have the support that you need. And sometimes it's just easier to go through a phase of life when you're just making one meal instead of two, or you're just like, I'm going to sit home and not exercise because it's just easier on the relationship. And when you have a partner who actually eats the same way you do, it makes a huge difference. It keeps you consistent and it keeps you on track. Around the time I started keto, I felt great. I started dropping weight and I had tons of energy, which was something I haven't had in a while. And I felt really good too. And my skin cleared up. I was incorporating this into my treatment room and with clients, not just for acne, but with all of them. Even when it comes to aging, if we're eating inflammatory foods, it's going to age us faster. So I was talking about nutrition and health with all of my clients. And this is kind of around the time that I started to really focus on being a more holistic esthetician, take a more natural approach to the skin. And I feel like that's something that has always separated my company from most other spas, is I've always had that drive to look at the cause of what's of your skin problems, not necessarily just, oh, what product can I put on your skin? There's a big difference. Before I get to my mission of why I created this podcast, I want to end with how I got here today. As entrepreneurs, our business is like having another baby. And for those of you who have had babies, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One moment your baby is great and you're like, I love this stage of life. And then the next moment the baby changes and you're like, what just happened? And it's like that with business. Skin Deep Aesthetics has been in business for 15 years. It has undergone many changes, including COVID shutdown. But the most difficult part about my business was during the e-learning year when my kids were home doing school on Zoom. Because at the time, they were only in 2nd, 3rd, and 7th grade. I needed to be here for my kids. I couldn't be working while they were home in school. I could only work for such a limited amount of time. And you would think, well, she can't work, so clients are just going to leave. It wasn't the case because first off, most of my clients were home doing the same thing. I've always gone all in when it comes to my business, and my clients know that I am always there for them and will do anything for them. And here we are, 2025. Our industry is taking a major shift right now. I see it in my business. I hear it from other estheticians. I had a friend of mine, I met with her a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the different shifts that our industry has taken. And she said the most interesting thing to me. Estheticians aren't looked at as the true skin experts anymore. That's interesting. And well, everybody's an influencer on social media, so that's where they're getting their information. And it's so true. Our industry is shifting. Something that has always been important to me is educating my clients. And we now go on to TikTok and Instagram and social media for our answers. Because it's quick, it's easy, and it's like, oh, I'll just buy them what they're selling because their skin's great. They're not out there helping you with your skin. Like, I'm on this podcast because I truly want to help you with your skin. A lot of these influencers are paid by big companies to sell a product. They wear makeup. They have the right lighting. You know, they hide their flaws so they actually look perfect online. You know, I wear makeup when I do videos, but if you come to see me for a facial, I have eyeliner and mascara. That's it. Because I want you to know who I really am. I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. Influencers are out there talking about the skin like they know exactly what they're talking about. But here's the interesting thing, and this goes for dermatologists too. Estheticians spend time. We touch your face. We study your skin. We read your skin. When I give a facial, I can tell right away what kind of skin somebody has because I can see how their skin's responding to the treatment. Everything I put on their skin, I'm watching, I'm learning, I'm understanding what's going on with them. And you can't get that from social media. It wears on me because it's something that's important to me. It's like, I just want to educate my clients and I want to help people. And I feel like when you're watching an influencer and you're just buying a bunch of random skincare products online, you're never going to get to the root cause of your problem because you're always going to be searching for the next best thing. I have definitely felt the frustration. I've definitely felt the hit of our industry. It's funny because sometimes you feel stuck in your business. And like I said earlier, our business is our baby. And we go all in and do anything for it. And babies change and businesses change and the economy changes. And when you own a business, you have to go with it. And those doors shut and those doors open. And you just have to be aware of when that door opens and when that door closes. And you have to look and see, okay, why is this door closing? But if that door is not meant to be open, it's going to close and it's going to slam shut in your face. So this summer, Clint and I were on the phone and I was at a point where I was starting to feel a little stuck in my business. I was doing everything I possibly could and I was just frustrated. He stumbled across a program for functional medicine. And he showed it to me and we did some research and kind of looked at this together. And it was one of those things that lit that fire inside of me. I was like, this is exactly where I need to go. Because our scope of practice is limited to the skin. while I do make suggestions to my clients and I say, why don't you try cutting this out of your diet? Or why don't you think about, inflammatory foods or pay attention to the way your body feels when you eat? That's as far as the scope of my practice goes. My job is the skin. Now that I'm studying functional medicine and eventually will be getting my doctorate in this, I can get to the root cause of clients' skincare problems because I can do some testing and tell you exactly what's going on inside your body so you can heal from the inside out. And in the next episode, I'm going to tell you exactly what functional medicine is, why functional medicine is so important, and how I'm going to pair functional medicine with aesthetics. My mission with this podcast is to create awareness about how our health impacts our skin. I hope that each episode will find someone who's struggling with their skin and gives them the gift of hope. Each episode will cover either skin, hormones, or health, and it will leave you with something you can take away so you can begin your own path to healing. Please follow along every week. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media at SkinDeepIL. If you have a question about your skin, please connect with us on social media and drop it there. Chances are, if you have a question about any of the topics we've talked about, there are plenty of others who have that question too. And we'll probably answer your question on an upcoming episode. I hope my story inspired you to start your own health journey. And I'd like to close with one small step that you can implement starting today. I want to ask you, are you living your best life? Are you focused on your health, or are you focused on everybody else? Start to pay attention today to how you're showing up for you. Thank you so much for listening. Today, I wanted to kick off the podcast by sharing my story and help you understand why my mission to educate is so important and how our health of our body impacts the health of our skin. This topic needs to be talked about and shared. Please share this podcast with somebody who needs to hear this message. Now that you know a little bit about me, please head over to my social media page and tell me one fun fact about you. Make sure to tune into episode 2. We are going to dig into functional medicine, defining what it is and how we're pairing functional medicine with aesthetics. And remember, you deserve to love the skin you're in. As estheticians, we have such a unique opportunity to not only care for the skin on the surface, but to guide our clients towards deeper wellness. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with me on Instagram at SkinDeepIL. I look forward to connecting with you there. And if you enjoyed this conversation, subscribing and reviewing the podcast helps others find these conversations too. And always remember, you deserve to love the skin you're in.